My name is Omar Khalid. I was born and raised in the heart of Casablanca, Morocco, surrounded by the bustling sounds of the souks, the rhythmic call to prayer echoing through the city, and the warmth of family traditions. My childhood was a blend of simplicity and richness, simple in its daily routines, but rich in the values of faith, family, and heritage. My mother's gentle hands would prepare the evening meal while reciting verses from the Quran, her voice a melody that seemed to reach beyond the walls of our small home. My father, a craftsman, would return from work with calloused hands and stories of resilience, teaching me lessons of perseverance and humility. From a young age, faith was the anchor of my life. I would rise early to join my father at the mosque, feeling a deep connection to the rituals that bound us to generations past. The recitations of the Quran were not merely words. They were a lifeline to something greater, something eternal. My education was rooted in Islamic teachings, and as I grew older, I took pride in the depth of my understanding and the unwavering commitment I had to Allah. Years later, life took me on a journey I never anticipated. Driven by dreams of providing a better future for my family, I moved to Milan, Italy. It was a city of contrasts, where the ancient and the modern coexisted, and where the hum of progress often drowned the whispers of tradition. Yet, I held tightly to the values I had carried with me from Morocco. I became a dedicated husband, a proud father of two, and a valued member of the Muslim community in my neighborhood. My days were filled with the responsibilities of work and the joy of guiding my children in the faith I cherished. But life, as it often does, has a way of testing our certainties. At the age of 63, I faced the shadow of an illness that threatened to upend everything I had built. Diabetes, a silent adversary I had ignored for years, began to take its toll. The doctors spoke in measured tones, explaining the complications that had arisen, and I realized the fragility of the body I had once taken for granted. It was during this time that my prayers took on a new urgency, a fervent plea for strength and understanding. The days leading up to my surgery were a blur of hospital visits, tests, and moments of quiet reflection. I found myself looking back on the chapters of my life, wondering if I had fulfilled the purpose I was meant for. There was an ache in my heart, not of fear, but of a longing I couldn't quite articulate, a yearning for something more profound than the routines of existence. As I prepared for what lay ahead, I felt a strange mixture of apprehension and peace, as though the trials of life had led me to a threshold I was meant to cross. The night before the surgery, I sat by the window of my hospital room, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. The murmurs of the nurses in the corridor faded into the background as I closed my eyes and whispered a prayer, not for healing, but for clarity. My faith had always been my compass, and I needed it now more than ever to guide me through the unknown. The following morning, as I was wheeled into the operating room, the world around me felt surreal. The sterile scent of the room, the bright surgical lights, and the voices of the medical team all blurred together into a distant hum. When the anesthesiologist placed a mask over my face, I took a deep breath and whispered one final prayer before everything faded to black. If you're moved by stories of faith, resilience, and spiritual journeys, consider subscribing to our channel. Join a community of seekers who explore the extraordinary within the ordinary. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts below. We'd love to hear your perspective. Darkness enveloped me, but it wasn't the kind of darkness I had ever known. It was neither cold nor frightening. It was a stillness, vast and infinite, as if the entire universe had folded into itself and left me suspended in its embrace. There were no walls, no boundaries, and no sound. Time ceased to exist, and all that remained was my awareness, pulsing like a faint echo in the void. I don't know how long I was there, floating in that formless expanse. It could have been seconds or centuries. Yet, in that space, I was not alone. There was an energy, a presence, something far greater than myself that seemed to pulsate all around me. It was alive, no, more than alive. It was aware, powerful, and overwhelming in its depth. My thoughts raced, but words failed to take form. Where was I? Was I dead? Then it happened. A voice unlike anything I had ever heard, pierced the silence. It was neither male nor female, neither loud nor soft. It simply was. It resonated through the fabric of my being, not in my ears, but within my soul. Omar, it called, and in that single utterance, it felt as though the universe had spoken my name. The voice carried a weight that both comforted and unsettled me. It was as if it knew every corner of my existence, every thought, every fear, every joy. I tried to speak, to respond, but no sound came. My mind swirled with questions, yet the presence seemed to understand them without my needing to voice them. Do not fear, it said, and in those 3 words a warmth began to spread through the void, like light emerging from behind a veil. Slowly, faint glimmers appeared around me, subtle at first, but growing with intensity. They were not like earthly light. They were alive, shimmering with colors I could not name, vibrating with a harmony that seemed to align with the beating of my heart. And then, as if drawn by the voice, the void began to shift. What had been an infinite nothingness now became a canvas of movement and form. Shadows danced, coalescing into shapes that ebbed and flowed like waves. I felt as though I were being carried, gently but purposefully, towards something unseen but immensely significant. The presence was still there, guiding me, though it spoke no further. Instead, I felt it within me, a knowing, a sense that I was on the verge of something profound. The lights grew brighter, and soon I found myself standing, or at least I felt as though I were standing, on a surface that shimmered like crystal beneath my feet. The atmosphere around me was unlike anything I had experienced. It was still and vast, yet alive with an unspoken energy. The air was thick with peace, a peace so profound that it brought tears to my eyes. My chest felt both heavy and light, as though the weight of my entire life had been lifted, yet the enormity of what lay ahead pressed gently upon me. And then in the distance I saw it. At first, it was nothing more than a flicker of light, faint and indistinct. But as I gazed upon it, it began to take shape, growing brighter and clearer with each passing moment. It was a figure, human in form but radiant beyond description. The light emanating from it was not blinding, but inviting, pulling me forward with an irresistible force. I tried to move, but my legs felt paralyzed by awe. I could do nothing but watch as the figure approached, its steps slow and deliberate, as if every movement carried the weight of eternity. Its presence was unlike anything I had ever known, both overwhelming and intimate, majestic and tender. As it came closer, I could make out more details. The figure was robed in white, its garments flowing like liquid light, shimmering with a radiance that seemed to contain the essence of the stars. Its face was obscured by the glow, yet its eyes pierced through the light, meeting mine with a gaze that saw everything I was and everything I had been. I fell to my knees, not out of fear, but out of an instinctive recognition that I was in the presence of something or someone divine. My heart pounded in my chest, yet I felt an inexplicable calm settle over me. The figure stopped a short distance away, and for a moment, the silence returned. The stillness was no longer empty. It was full of expectation, as though the entire cosmos had paused to witness what was about to unfold. And then the figure spoke. "Omar," it said, its voice rich with authority and compassion. "You have been brought here for a purpose." Those words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I wanted to respond, to ask where I was, who this was, and what purpose they spoke of, but my voice failed me. All I could do was lower my head, trembling under the weight of their presence. The figure stepped closer, and as it did, the light around it seemed to envelop me, filling me with a warmth that was both comforting and humbling. My tears fell freely, and for the first time in my life, I felt utterly and completely known. The words that followed would forever change the course of my existence. The radiance surrounding the figure was overwhelming, yet it did not blind me. Instead, it seemed to penetrate every layer of my being, illuminating thoughts, memories, and emotions I had buried deep within myself. I felt exposed, yet strangely comforted. The presence before me was not harsh or condemning. It was gentle, filled with an indescribable sense of love and understanding. The figure extended a hand toward me, and though it did not touch me, I felt a surge of warmth and energy flow through my body. My mind, which had been a storm of questions and confusion, quieted as though a veil had been lifted. In that moment, I knew I was standing on the threshold of something far greater than myself. "Omar," the figure said again, its voice resonating with both authority and tenderness. "You have sought truth all your life, though you did not always recognize it. Now you stand here because it is time for you to see." I dared to look up, my eyes meeting the figure's gaze. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Those eyes, piercing yet gentle, seemed to hold the weight of eternity. They reflected my entire life back at me, not as a series of events, but as a tapestry of moments, woven together with purpose and meaning. And then, without warning, the world around us shifted. The shimmering ground beneath my knees dissolved, replaced by a vision so vivid it felt as though I were living it anew. I saw myself as a child, running through the streets of Casablanca, laughing with my friends, the sun warm on my face. I saw my mother kneeling in prayer, her voice filled with devotion, and my father working tirelessly to provide for our family. The scenes moved quickly, each one flowing into the next like the turning of pages in a book. I saw my teenage years, my first experiences of doubt and questioning as I grappled with the teachings of my faith. I saw the moment I decided to leave my homeland, driven by hope and fear in equal measure. As the visions continued, I began to notice something I had never realized before. There were moments, small, fleeting moments, when I had felt a pull, a whisper in my soul that seemed to call me towards something beyond my understanding. At the time, I had dismissed them as mere thoughts, distractions from the path I had been taught to follow. But now, in this sacred space, I saw them for what they truly were: invitations. The figure spoke again, its voice breaking through the flood of memories. "You were never alone, Omar," it said. "Even in your darkest moments, when doubt clouded your heart and fear guided your steps, I was there. I called to you, not to condemn you, but to draw you closer to the truth." Tears streamed down my face as the weight of those words settled in my heart. I had always believed in Allah, always sought to live a life of faith and devotion. But here, in this moment, I realized how often I had closed myself off to the deeper questions, afraid of where they might lead me. The visions began to change. I saw myself in the mosque leading prayers, guiding others in faith. I saw the pride in my community's eyes as they looked to me for wisdom and strength. But alongside these moments of joy and purpose, I saw something else, moments of emptiness, a quiet ache that I had never been able to explain. "You felt it, didn't you?" the figure asked, its tone gentle yet firm. "The longing, the questions you dared not speak aloud. They were not a sign of weakness, Omar. They were a sign of your soul seeking the truth." I nodded, unable to speak. Every fiber of my being resonated with the truth of those words. The figure stepped closer, its light enveloping me fully now. It was as though I were being held, not physically, but spiritually, cradled in an embrace that spoke of infinite love and grace. "You have been brought here," the figure continued, "because it is time for you to see the fullness of what you have sought all your life. But the path ahead will not be easy. It will require courage, faith, and a willingness to let go of the lies that have bound you." A deep silence followed, heavy with meaning. The figure's words were not a rebuke, but an invitation, a call to step beyond the confines of what I had always known and into a reality far greater than I could have imagined. As the silence stretched on, the visions around me began to fade, replaced once again by the shimmering light of the realm I had first entered. The figure remained before me, steadfast and radiant, waiting patiently as I grappled with the enormity of what I had seen and heard. And though I did not yet fully understand what lay ahead, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. My journey had only just begun. The figure before me seemed to pulse with life, its radiance growing even brighter as it spoke. Each word reverberated through the very fabric of my being, not merely heard but felt, as though my soul itself was absorbing the truth being revealed. Omar, the voice intoned, firm yet overflowing with compassion. You stand in the presence of the truth you have long sought, the answers you have feared to confront, the questions you have buried deep within yourself. Now is the time for them to rise, for the light cannot be hidden any longer. The air around us seemed to shift again, and I was no longer standing on the shimmering ground. Instead, I found myself in a vast space that defied all earthly comprehension. The boundaries of this realm were not marked by walls or horizons, but by an infinite expanse of light, each thread of it vibrant, alive, and resonating with a harmony so perfect it felt like the song of creation itself. In the center of this brilliance, I saw visions begin to unfold. These were not just memories of my own life, but glimpses of something far greater, a tapestry of existence in which I was but a single thread, yet a thread that mattered deeply. I saw acts of love and kindness I had witnessed and participated in over the years. A beggar's outstretched hand that I had filled with coins, the quiet moments of prayer with my children, the times I had stood as a pillar of strength for my community. These moments shone brightly in the vision, each one a testament to the beauty and dignity of the human spirit when aligned with the divine. But then, the light shifted, and other scenes came into view. Moments of anger, doubt, and fear. Instances where I had chosen self-preservation over generosity, where I had turned away from others' pain because it was too heavy to bear. These moments, too, were illuminated, not with condemnation, but with a quiet, sorrowful understanding. The figure stepped closer, its light merging with the visions. Omar, it said, these are the truths of your life, the moments where you reflected the divine and those where you faltered. But understand this, your worth is not measured by your failures or successes. It is measured by the love that brought you into being and the purpose that still awaits you. My heart ached as I watched the scenes unfold, feeling the weight of both joy and regret. And yet, within that ache was a sense of release, as though the burdens I had carried for so long were being lifted one by one. The light began to intensify, focusing on a single figure, a man walking through a crowd. His steps were deliberate, his gaze filled with compassion as he reached out to touch those around him. The sick were healed, the broken were mended, and the hopeless found joy. As I watched, I realized who it was. The figure turned, and though his face was radiant and otherworldly, his eyes held a familiarity that pierced through the depths of my soul. He spoke, and though his words were directed at the crowd in the vision, they seemed meant for me. I am the way, the truth, and the life, he said, his voice carrying the weight of eternity. No one comes to the Father except through me. The words struck me like a bolt of lightning, leaving me breathless. This was not the Jesus I had been taught to revere as a prophet. This was something far more profound, far more divine. The vision faded, and I found myself once again standing before the radiant figure. My knees buckled, and I fell to the ground, trembling under the weight of the revelation. I don't understand, I whispered, my voice barely audible. How can this be? How could I have been so blind? The figure knelt before me, its light enveloping me in an embrace that felt both humbling and empowering. You were not blind, Omar, it said. You were searching, and now your search has brought you here. Do not fear what lies ahead, for you have been chosen to carry this truth into the world. I could say nothing, my heart too full of awe and confusion. Yet within the silence, a seed of understanding began to take root. If this chapter has touched your heart, take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts by commenting Imam. Join our growing community and let the blessings flow as we continue this journey together. The light around me grew softer, though no less radiant, as the figure rose to its full height. Its presence remained overwhelming, yet I felt an undeniable strength beginning to stir within me, as though the warmth of its radiance had ignited something dormant deep within my soul. "Omar," the figure began, its voice calm yet resolute. "The truth you have been shown is not a burden but a gift. And with this gift comes a purpose, a calling that you must now embrace." The atmosphere shifted once more, and I found myself surrounded by a vast landscape of possibilities. It was as if I were standing at the center of countless paths, each one leading to a different horizon. The figure extended its hand, and as it did, the paths began to take shape, revealing scenes of what lay ahead. I saw myself standing before crowds, my voice carrying words I had never thought I would utter. I saw faces illuminated with hope, tears streaming as they listened to a story that seemed to resonate with their deepest questions and fears. I saw lives being transformed, not through my strength, but through the truth that I had been entrusted to share. Yet alongside these visions of impact, I saw the challenges that would accompany them. There were scenes of rejection, of isolation, of those I loved turning away, unable or unwilling to accept what I had come to know. The weight of these images settled heavily on my chest, and I turned to the figure, my voice trembling. "How can I do this?" I asked. "How can I carry this truth when it may cost me everything? My family, my community, my very identity?" The figure's gaze softened, and it stepped closer, its light enveloping me once more. "Omar," it said, "the path of truth is not without sacrifice, but it is a path of eternal purpose. You will face trials, yes, but know this: you will never walk this path alone. The Father's Spirit will guide you, and His love will sustain you through every challenge." As the figure spoke, a profound peace began to wash over me. It was not the absence of fear or doubt, but the presence of something far greater, a certainty that, no matter what lay ahead, this was the path I was meant to walk. The visions shifted again, this time focusing on a single image, a seed, small and unassuming, being planted in rich soil. As I watched, the seed began to grow, its roots spreading deep and its branches reaching toward the sky. Birds came to rest in its shade, and its fruit nourished those who gathered beneath it. "This," the figure said, motioning to the image, "is the essence of your mission. The truth you carry is a seed, Omar. Plant it with faith, and it will grow into something far greater than you can imagine. Its impact will stretch beyond your lifetime, touching hearts and lives in ways you may never see." The image of the tree began to fade, replaced once more by the shimmering light of the realm. I looked up at the figure, my heart heavy with questions, but also filled with a quiet resolve. "What must I do?" I asked, my voice steady despite the enormity of the question. The figure smiled, a smile that radiated both joy and understanding. "Speak the truth," it said. "Live it, share it, and let it transform you. Do not fear the cost, for what you will gain is far greater. Trust in the Father's plan, and He will guide your steps." As the words settled into my soul, I felt a deep sense of purpose begin to take root. The doubts and fears that had once held me captive began to loosen their grip, replaced by a quiet but unshakable faith. The figure stepped back, its light still surrounding me, and motioned toward the horizon. "The journey will not be easy, Omar," it said, "but it will be worth it. Go now, and carry the light you have received into the world." And with that, the radiance around me began to shift once more, signaling the next stage of the journey that lay ahead. The light around me began to fade, and I felt a gentle pull, as though an unseen force was guiding me back. The radiant figure remained before me, its presence unwavering, as it spoke one final time. "Omar, the time has come for you to return," it said, its voice filled with both strength and tenderness. "What you have seen and heard here is not meant to remain in this realm. You have been chosen to carry this truth back to the world, to be a beacon of light in the midst of darkness. I wanted to protest, to remain in this place of peace and clarity, but I knew deep down that the figure was right. This journey was not for me alone. It was a gift to be shared, a responsibility I could not ignore." The shimmering ground beneath me began to dissolve, replaced by a sensation of weightlessness. The radiant figure's light grew softer, yet its presence remained as a steady reassurance. "Go with courage, Omar," it said, "and remember, you are never alone. The Father's love will guide you, and His Spirit will give you strength." As the final words echoed within me, the realm around me began to blur, and I felt myself being drawn back through the vast expanse I had first entered. The warmth and peace I had experienced lingered, wrapping around me like a protective shield. Then, with a sudden jolt, I opened my eyes. The sterile brightness of the hospital room replaced the heavenly glow, and the hum of machines filled my ears. My body felt heavy, weak, but my spirit was alive in a way I had never known before. The faces of my family came into focus, my wife, my children, and the doctors who had worked tirelessly to save me. Their expressions were a mix of relief and curiosity as they saw me stir. I struggled to sit up, my movements slow but deliberate. The weight of what I had experienced pressed on me, but it was not a burden, it was a calling. I knew I had to speak, to share the truth that had been revealed to me, even if the words felt inadequate to describe the magnitude of what I had witnessed. "I'm here," I said softly, my voice carrying both exhaustion and a newfound strength. "I've seen something I must tell you." The room grew silent as they leaned in, their eyes filled with anticipation. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts, knowing that what I was about to share would change not only my life but theirs as well. If this story has inspired you, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and join our growing community. Your support helps us share more stories like this, and we'd love for you to be part of the journey. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment below. We're stronger together. The days that followed my awakening were unlike anything I had ever experienced. My body was fragile, recovering from the surgery that had brought me to the brink of death. Yet my spirit was unshakable, renewed by the truths I had witnessed. The memory of the radiant figure and the words spoken in that otherworldly realm lingered within me, not as distant echoes but as living truths, guiding every thought and action. My family noticed the change immediately. They saw it in my eyes, heard it in my voice. The man they had known, rooted in faith but burdened by doubts he never dared to voice, was gone. In his place stood someone reborn, filled with a clarity and purpose that defied explanation. I began to share my experience with those closest to me, starting with my wife. At first, she listened in silence, her expression shifting between disbelief and awe. "Omar," she whispered when I finished, "this is beyond anything I could have imagined. What does it mean for us, for our family?" "It means we must walk in truth," I replied, my voice steady. "It won't be easy, but we cannot ignore what has been revealed. This is a calling, not just for me, but for all of us, to live a life of love, courage, and unwavering faith." Word of my experience began to spread, reaching beyond the walls of our home and into our community. Some were curious, eager to hear more, while others were skeptical, even dismissive. Yet, I held firm, sharing my story with humility and honesty, trusting that the truth would resonate with those ready to receive it. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself drawn to acts of service and compassion in ways I never had before. The truths revealed to me were not meant to remain abstract. They demanded action. I reached out to those in need, offering not only material help, but also words of hope and encouragement. But it was not without challenges. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of this new path felt overwhelming. The faces of my friends and community members who turned away from me, unable to accept the changes in my life, were a painful reminder of the cost of truth. Yet, in those moments, I returned to the vision of the radiant figure, to the warmth of its embrace and the certainty of its words. "You are never alone." One evening, as I sat in quiet reflection, I felt a deep sense of anticipation, a knowing that this journey was far from over. The truths I had been entrusted with were not merely for my own transformation, but for the transformation of others. And so, I resolved to continue sharing my story, not out of pride or obligation, but out of a profound desire to illuminate the path for those still searching. As I closed my eyes, a final memory of the radiant figure came to mind. Its parting words echoed within me, a reminder of the promise that guided my every step. Speak the truth, Omar, and let it set others free. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, don't stop here. There's another video waiting for you, one that will reveal even more about the extraordinary path of faith and truth. Simply click on the video appearing on your screen now to continue this life-changing journey. Join our community by subscribing, and let's walk this path together.